a far heightened degree of artistry than actually went into the Magic Roundabout.
Here comes Parsley. I wonder if he's noticed anything strange about the garden.
I'm a very friendly lion called Parsley. I am always very glad to see you wave.
The Herbs was written by Michael Bond, and his magic garden was brought to life by none other than Ivor Wood.
You do feel something different, Parsley. And what on earth was that?
If you look at Ivor's work, I mean, it's a sort of, I would say, a kindness within the stories or the way he approaches things. There's nothing violent about it at all, and I think this is sort of trademark.
From the Herbs, Ivor went from strength to strength. Next he made the classic Paddington Bear, continuing the collaboration with Michael Bond.
Mr. and Mrs. Brown first met Paddington on a railway station, which was how he came to have such an unusual name for a bear.
Paddington was hugely successful and established Ivor as one of Britain's leading animators.
I'm a stowaway.
I think Ivor's contribution is extremely important because if you look at a series like Paddington, for example, which is probably the nearest thing to the Magic Roundabout to really succeed across a wide spectrum of viewers, then you see the same kind of magic. You see the magic in the animation. The way the characters move in Ivor's films there's a simplicity, but there's also a great subtlety, because every animator is an actor. That's what they're doing. They're acting through this puppet. They're acting through it if it's drawn on a piece of paper, but they're taking the puppet and they're manipulating that puppet, a turn of the head, a movement of the hands. These are the movements that the animator puts into it as though he were that little character.
Ivor was clearly exceptionally talented because he moved from one idea to another and produced different things, and Paddington was lovely and always new looks, new combinations of still pictures and moving objects and colour and black and white, and he was always, as far as I could see, very experimental.
And here comes Madame Chollet. She's picking the daffodils.
Ivor animated the Wombles for the children of the 70s before going on to create Postman Pat.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat, and his black and white cat.
He's been able to retire comfortably on the fruits of his labour, but pays tribute to the series that started him off all those years ago.
He's a really happy man.
Magic Roundabout, to me, has been... It was a little bit like running a race, and it was the starting block. But it was an influential starting block in the sense that it put the whole thing in perspective. And you could, from there on, pick up another idea and see value in it or not, because you'd had already a lot of experience with this. And for me, it was very influential, I must say.
Did you like that? Said Mr. Rusty. It brought tears to my eyes, said Zebedee.
The BBC showed the Magic Roundabout throughout the 1970s, although production had stopped in France in the late 60s. Serge Dano's next venture had attempted to emulate the success of Le Ménage Enchanté.
We got to know that Serge Dano was doing a sequel, which was actually called Poustoff. Pouce in French means thumb, which is like Tom Thumb. So all the little characters in that were tiny little men. And Serge Dano was very, very anxious to tie in and make another killing as he had with Magic Roundabout, because it was much more successful in England than it had been in France.
But the little men did not catch on, and Poustoffs never made it to Britain.
I've got a funny little note which Phillida found in Eric's papers, which says £500 for not doing Pustoff in his diary.
There you go. Mikey, Mikey.
Dano then returned to what he knew best and brought the Magic Roundabout characters out of retirement to star in a full-length feature film called Pollux et le Chat Bleu, or Dougal and the Blue Cat. Once again, Eric Thompson rewrote and revoiced the script. The film was released in 1972, and the story, as Thompson tells it, is of a mysterious stranger of evil intent who tries to take over the garden.
She got a bit closer, and she saw a cat. How beautiful. Call me Buxton.
We used to name animals, and Buxton was a cousin of mine. He was actually called Buxton. Isn't that odd? Because it's a place, isn't it? He was a musician, and Buxton obviously intrigued. The fact that he was named Buxton intrigued Thompson, so the new blue cat became Buxton.
Buxton?
Thompson gave Buxton the baddie an unsettling Yorkshire drawl.
Aye, that's the name, lad. Buxton. Pleased to, how are you? Very well, Tar.
It's maybe just the slowness of it, the fact that, you could have had a sort of George Sanders person, I suppose, but it's just you can draw out those vowels, can't you? Ha, ha, ha.
The plot had Buxton in thrall to the disembodied voice of the Blue Queen, who wanted to take over the magic garden.
Blue is beautiful. Blue is best. I'm blue. I'm beautiful. I'm best.
This was the only time Thompson ever brought in another person to play a part, but a particular voice was needed, and who else could carry it off but carry-on star Vanilla Fielding.
Correct, Sir Buxton.
I remember that it was very frightening and that I had to sort of roar a bit.
Out of my sight before I lose my temper. And when I lose my temper, there's trouble, 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 trouble.
All the things children like best, they watch from behind the sofa, don't